Hi, my name is Lena Hart and I'm 24 years old. What I'm about to share isn't fiction and it's not a script. It's my real story, one that shattered me, reshaped me, and still haunts parts of me I pretend no one can see. I trusted the man I trusted the girl I called my sister, but in the end they trusted each other more than they ever cared about me. This isn't just about betrayal, it's about how lies grow roots, how love blinds us, and how silence screams the loudest when truth finally hits. So if you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever felt replaced in your own relationship, a story is for you. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share if you connect with this. This story is written and edited by Dark Life Side. Diaries. When I met Declan, he wasn't just charming, he was disarming. The kind of guy whose laugh filled the room and emptied every doubt in your chest. He was a sound engineer at an indie music studio in Chicago, and I met him when I applied to intern there. I was a fresh graduate in audio production, a little nervous but too proud to show it. He held the door for me, cracked a stupid joke about my oversized backpack, and just like that I smiled. Stupid me. That was the smile that started it all. We became friends first, then late night pizza runs turned into 3 a.m. studio sessions. Then one night he fell asleep with his head on my shoulder, and the next night we kissed. Fast forward 6 months and we were in love, or so I thought. The only other person closer to me than Declan was my childhood best friend Arya. We had been inseparable since age 10, matching lockets, shared diaries, late night FaceTimes from 2 feet away. She was the sister my DNA forgot to assign me. I told her everything about Declan, about how he made me feel safe, known, adored. She said he was a good one. She sighed. I saw it in flashes at first. The way her smile would stretch a little wider when he texted. The way she lingered around the studio longer when he was there. I convinced myself it was in my head. I even told Declan, half laughing, "Arya's acting like she has a little crush on you." He just said, "She's your best friend, don't be weird." So I let it go. I gaslit myself because I was terrified of being the jealous girlfriend. That's the cruel part about betrayal. It doesn't happen all at once. It leaks into your life like a slow poison. You smell the smoke but convince yourself it's just fog. It wasn't until Arya asked me casually, like it was no big deal, what Declan's favorite takeout spot was, that I paused. That was our thing, our Friday routine. Why would she need to know that? Then came the night that changed everything. Declan was out late at the studio, and I decided to surprise him with food. I grabbed his favorite ramen, took an Uber, and walked in with a soft smile, only to hear laughter. Not just laughter, hers. The studio light was dimmed, music playing, her voice carrying through the closed door. Stood there frozen. I didn't want to believe it, but my heart knew before my brain could catch up. I pushed the door open, and there they were, too close. Too comfortable, too guilty. Arya's hand was on his. Declan's eyes widened. Lena. I didn't stay to hear it. I dropped the ramen. The lid came off, noodles splattered everywhere. Kinda poetic, because that was the moment everything spilled. I didn't cry that night. I walked straight out, got home, locked the door, and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. Then I blocked them both. I thought that would be the end of it. But betrayal doesn't end when people leave. It stays behind in every place they ever touched, every song they ever played, every lie you ever mistook for love. But this story doesn't stop there, because a week later Arya showed up, and what she told me broke me again. Week after I walked in on Declan and Arya, I was still floating in a strange fog, 1 part anger, 1 part disbelief, and 100 parts pain. I hadn't returned anyone's calls. I deleted my social media apps, skipped work, and ghosted my own life. It wasn't sadness that anchored me, it was the ache of replacement. Have you ever loved someone so hard that you didn't realize you were loving for too? That was me, and now all that love sat rotting in the pit of my stomach, turning every memory into a question. Were they always this close? Was I blind or just stupid? The knock on my door came at noon sharp, like a gavel. I didn't answer. At first hoping it was just a delivery, but it didn't stop. It kept coming, soft, rhythmic, almost desperate. I stood behind the door, not sure if I was ready for human interaction, when I heard her voice. "Lena, it's me. Please just hear me out." Arya. Her voice cracked. She sounded like someone I used to love, like someone I couldn't decide whether to kill or hug. Against all reason, I opened the door. She looked wrecked, no makeup, hoodie pulled tight over her head, and eyes swollen like sigh. Let her in, not because she deserved it, but because I needed answers, and if pain was coming for me anyway, I wanted to look it in the eye. She sat on the edge of the couch like a guest in her own crime scene. "I didn't plan it," she began. "I swear to you it wasn't supposed to happen like that." I stood by the window, arms crossed, staring at the skyline, but seeing none of it. "When did it start?" I asked. "When you two were still together?" She looked down. That was the answer. Jesus, Arya. My voice cracked, rage and heartbreak blending like oil and fire. I told you everything about him, every moment, every fear, every piece of love I had I gave to both of you. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. I know. And that's what makes me the worst kind of person. I didn't argue, she continued. It wasn't about love at first, it was comfort, familiarity. We all hung out so much the lines blurred. I was lonely, you were so in love with him and so sure. And she stopped herself. I was jealous, okay? Not of him, of you, of how he knew. We sat in silence. The kind that screams. So what now? I asked. You want forgiveness? She shook her head. No, I want to fix what I broke, but I know. I can't. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small photo of us at age 14, arms linked, laughing like the world couldn't touch us. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I don't expect you to trust me again. I miss you. I looked at the photo, and for a split second I remembered the girl I once called home, but she wasn't that girl anymore, neither was I. I miss her too, I said softly. But we can't go back. She stood to leave, nodded like she already knew the answer. If you ever need me, I won't. I cut, not to be cruel, just to be honest. After she left, I sat down and cried. Not for Declan, not even for Arya. I cried for me, for the version of Lena that believed love was a promise and friendship was permanent, for the girl who would never trust that easily again. But this isn't where my story ends, because a week later I got a DM on Instagram from someone named Melody, a girl I'd never met. The message read, Hey, I know this is random, but I think your boyfriend Declan has been lying to both of us. Can we talk? That was the moment I realized I wasn't the only one in his triangle. I was one point on a very crowded map. Melody's message sat in my inbox for 2 hours before I opened it. I must have stared at her profile picture. A dozen times. She looked younger than me, probably 21, maybe a college junior, bright smile, auburn curls. No mutuals, and yet I already hated how familiar she felt. I clicked her message. Wasn't long, just 3 lines. Hey, I know this is random, but I think your boyfriend Declan has been lying to both of us. Can we talk? I felt the blood rush out of my hands. I wasn't even with Declan anymore. Hell, I didn't even miss him, but betrayal? That emotion? It has a long half-life, and this felt like being betrayed all over again. I replied with one word. Call. She sent her number. I took a breath, walked to the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, stared at my reflection in the microwave like it would give me answers. Then I called. Her voice was soft, nervous. Hi, Lena? Yes. Thank you for calling. I wasn't sure if you'd think I'm crazy. I've met Declan. Crazy isn't the problem. She let out a weak laugh, then silence. I don't know how to start this, so I'll just say it. I've been seeing him for 4 months. He told me he was single. Said he was still healing from his toxic ex. He never used your name, but he told me she cheated on him with his best friend. Said it broke him. I sat down hard on the floor, heart thudding. He said I cheated. Melody's voice cracked. Yes, and that you stalked him, that you wouldn't let go. The cruelty of it felt like a second betrayal, not just cheating but rewriting me into the villain. My hands trembled. When's the last time you saw him? I asked. 2 nights ago. She said. I slept over, but something felt off. He was distracted, kept texting, and he had a painting in his closet half finished. It had your name on it, Lena. I asked who you were. He said, an old mistake. That's when I started searching. Her voice broke then, and I realized we were the same, just different stops on his road of destruction. Melody wasn't my enemy. She was my mirror. I asked her to meet in person. She agreed. We chose a public cafe downtown, somewhere neutral. When I walked in the next afternoon, she was already there, hoodie pulled over her, fingers wrapped tight around a hot coffee. When she looked up and saw me, she gasped. You're real, she whispered. I sat down. So are you. We talked for 3 hours. She showed me text photos, voice notes. And then came the bombshell. Melody wasn't the only other girl. There was another, someone named Kayla, a tattoo artist in Milwaukee. Declan had visited her twice last month, telling both Melody and Kayla he was traveling for studio gigs. I sat in stunned silence as she scrolled through receipts, hotel bookings, even flirty messages dated the week. Declan had supposedly been apologizing to Arya. It hit me like a punch. Declan wasn't conflicted. He was calculated. This wasn't some accidental triangle. It was a web, and we were all caught in it. Thanked Melody, promised I'd keep in touch, and left that cafe feeling like I'd been scraped raw. I couldn't cry. I'd already shed enough tears to fill an ocean. Instead, I felt rage, but not the kind that makes you burn everything down, the kind that clarifies. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to expose him publicly. I wasn't going to send screenshots to his label or graffiti his car or write some viral takedown post. I wasn't going to be another mess he could twist into a story. I was going to reclaim myself quietly but permanently. I painted again that night, something dark but honest, 3 girls with invisible faces all stitched together at the wrist. No titles, just truth. Then I emailed it to an underground art gallery that focused on female trauma storytelling. The curator replied within the hour. We want this in our next showcase. The next week Melody messaged me again. I ended it blocked. Him, Kayla too. I think we're free now, but I realized something. Freedom isn't just blocking a number. It's unlearning the lies you let yourself believe, and I had one more loose thread left, Arya, because the one thing she never told me was why she came to me at all, and I was about to find out that her guilt had a secret I never expected to. Weeks passed after Melody and I burned Declan's bridges behind us. Life didn't snap back like a rubber band, it moved slowly, like I was relearning how to walk without dragging someone else's shadow behind me. My phone was quieter, my thoughts were louder. I slept with the lights on, not because I was afraid of the dark, but because the dark reminded me of studio nights, of his voice, of Arya's laugh echoing down the hallway. The art exhibit featuring my piece opened quietly. I didn't tell anyone, not my coworkers, not my old classmates, not even Melody. But when I stood there in front of that painting, the one with the stitched wrists, I felt something settle in my chest for the first time since all of this began. I didn't know what it was at first. Then I realized it was clarity. That moment didn't last long because the very next day I saw her again, Arya, waiting outside my building like an abandoned chapter. She looked different, less composed, less sharp, more real. I walked past her at first, pretending not to see. But she called out my name not once, but 3 times, each louder than the last. Lena, please, just 5 minutes, please. I turned around, not out of sympathy, but because I was done running from ghosts. Say it, say whatever's left. She looked at me, eyes puffy and full of something new, not regret, not guilt, fear. She said, I need to tell you something I didn't before about why I came back, why I left Declan. It wasn't just because he treated me like a replacement. It was because he told me something I wasn't supposed to hear. My stomach nodded. What? Arya swallowed, voice cracking. He said I wasn't his first, that the real girl he wanted already broke once, that he needed her shattered to feel needed. He told me you were never the goal, your destruction was. I blinked. What the hell does that mean? Arya looked like she was about to collapse. Declan's ex before you, Sophie, filed a restraining order. He messed with her mind, made her think she was the problem, isolated her from her friends, ruined her college plans. When she tried to leave, he faked a panic attack to keep her. When it didn't work, he started seeing you. It felt like ice in my blood. So I was what? His revenge? Arya shook her head. No, you were his project, his experiment. He wanted to see if he could make a strong girl feel weak again, and I was part of it. I felt sick, you knew? Not at first, she said, but once I did, I couldn't face you. I thought if I stayed away, you'd heal. But when I saw your name on his painting, the one he made when he was with me, I knew he was never done with you, that he wanted to haunt you forever. I couldn't breathe. Everything hurt in places I didn't know had feelings, but I also felt free. Finally, the last lie had unraveled. Declan wasn't just a bad boyfriend, he was a manipulator, a serial predator, someone who collected broken women and called it art. And Arya? She was never his prize, she was his alibi, and I was no longer either. I turned to her, voice steady. I'm done carrying your guilt. You didn't protect me, you used me. So don't come here looking for peace like it lives with me. It doesn't, not for you. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I know, I just needed to say it out loud. And she left this time for good. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence wrap around me like armor. I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and began writing this story, not for revenge, but for release. I told the truth, not to expose him, but to reclaim myself. Every word you've read was my way of lighting a match to a history I never wanted but survived anyway. To everyone who's ever been made to feel like a backup, a mistake, a chapter in someone else's twisted narrative, I see you are not what they did to. You are not the silence they left you with, you are your own ending. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for holding space for my pain, and if this story found you at the right time, please subscribe, like, and share with someone who needs it, because healing doesn't happen in silence, it happens in stories. This story is written and edited by Dark Lifeside Diaries.